Why did Roderick Dustin stab Ormund Hightower in the butt? House of the Dragon Explained. Spoiler warning. This video contains major spoilers for House of the Dragon Season 3, Episode 8, including the Battle of Tumbleton, Roderick Dustin, Ormund Hightower, and their shocking final confrontation. If you haven't watched the finale yet, this is your warning. One of the strangest and most shocking moments in the House of the Dragon Season 3 finale happens during the Battle of Tumbleton. Roderick Dustin, also known as Roddy the Ruin, manages to get close to Ormund Hightower. And then, instead of delivering a traditional sword strike, Roderick stabs Ormund from behind, directly through one of the few vulnerable areas in his armor. Yes, Roderick literally stabs Ormund in the butt. But why? Was it meant to humiliate him? Was it simply a joke from the writers? Or was there actually a practical reason for Roderick to attack Ormund that way? The answer is actually connected to medieval armor and the chaos of the battlefield. Let's start with what is happening in the scene. The Battle of Tumbleton has become complete chaos. The Black forces have attacked the Green Army, and the fighting is spreading through the town. Ormund Hightower is trying to maintain control of his forces. He is heavily armored and surrounded by soldiers. Roderick Dustin, meanwhile, has pushed deep into the green position. Roderick is one of the Winter Wolves. These are experienced northern warriors who came south knowing that they might never return home. They aren't fighting like ordinary soldiers. They are fighting with the mentality that death is already waiting for them. And Roderick is one of their most dangerous leaders. By the time he reaches Ormund, the battle has already taken a heavy toll on him. But Roderick keeps moving. He doesn't care that he is injured. He doesn't care how many soldiers are between him and Ormund. His objective is to reach the Green Commander, and eventually he does. Ormund is wearing heavy armor. That armor protects the most important parts of his body. His chest is protected, his back is protected, his limbs are largely protected, his head is protected. But armor doesn't make someone completely invulnerable. There are always gaps. A warrior still needs to move. He needs to bend. He needs to sit on a horse. He needs to walk. And because of that, certain areas are much more difficult to protect completely. The area between the armor plates around the legs and backside is one of those vulnerabilities. Roderick sees his opportunity, and he takes it. Instead of wasting time trying to cut through Ormund's armor, he attacks the exposed area. It's brutal, it's humiliating, and it's incredibly effective. The strike causes Ormund enormous pain. But there is something even more important happening at this moment. Roderick isn't trying to win an honorable duel. This is war. There are no rules. There is no referee. And nobody is waiting for the perfect sword-fighting opportunity. Roderick simply wants Ormund dead. And when you're fighting an armored opponent, attacking a vulnerable opening can be much more effective than trying to smash through the armor itself. That's why the scene makes sense from a battlefield perspective. It looks ridiculous because of where the sword lands. But strategically, Roderick is exploiting the weakness of an armored opponent. And there is another reason the moment feels so brutal. Ormund has been one of the most confident commanders on the green side. He has spent much of the season acting as though he has control over the situation. At Tumbleton, he even uses civilians as human shields to protect his forces from the Black Dragons. He believes he can control the battlefield. But suddenly, Roderick is standing behind him, and all of Ormund's armor and authority can't save him. That is the irony of the moment. Ormund has an army. He has soldiers. He has armor. He has the support of House Hightower. But none of that matters when an enemy warrior gets close enough to exploit a weakness. And Roderick isn't the only person taking advantage of the chaos. The entire battle is beginning to collapse. Dragons are attacking, soldiers are dying, buildings are burning. And then Ulf the White makes the decision that changes everything. Ulf turns Silverwing against the battlefield. The dragon begins unleashing fire across Tumbleton. And this is where the story becomes even more tragic. Roderick Dustin and Ormund Hightower are both caught in the destruction. So although Roderick manages to stab Ormund, he doesn't actually get to walk away as the victor. The dragonfire ultimately kills them. That distinction is important. Roderick doesn't simply stab Ormund and then celebrate his victory. He dies almost immediately afterward in the same catastrophe. Ormund dies too, and the scene becomes another example of how unpredictable the Dance of the Dragons has become. Human warriors can fight each other. They can win duels. They can make military plans. But once a dragon enters the battlefield, everything changes. One moment, Roderick has the advantage. The next moment, both men are surrounded by dragonfire. This also explains why Roderick's final attack is so significant. He knows he may not survive. The Winter Wolves have already accepted that possibility. Roderick's goal isn't necessarily to survive the battle, it's to make his death count. If he can take down Ormund, he can potentially destroy the Green Army's leadership. And that's exactly what happens. Ormund is the main commander of the Hightower forces at Tumbleton. Removing him creates enormous confusion among the Greens. So Roderick's attack isn't simply personal revenge. It has military value. Kill the commander and the army becomes harder to control. And Roderick is willing to sacrifice himself to make that happen. This is one of the reasons Roderick Dustin is such an interesting character. He isn't fighting for wealth. He isn't fighting for the Iron Throne. He isn't trying to become famous. He is fighting because he has committed himself to Rhaenyra's cause. And the Winter Wolves have a very different attitude toward death compared with many of the other soldiers in the war. They are older men. They have already lived long lives. They understand the risks, and they willingly march into the dance knowing that many of them won't survive. Roderick embodies that mentality. He keeps moving forward, even when the odds are terrible. And that's why he doesn't hesitate when he sees Ormund's vulnerability. He doesn't stop to think about whether the attack looks honorable. He sees an opening. He uses it. And that's what soldiers do in a real battlefield. Survival comes before honor. Now there is another interesting question. Was Roderick deliberately trying to humiliate Ormund? Possibly, at least partly. The way the scene is filmed certainly makes the moment shocking and even darkly humorous. The location of the wound makes it visually memorable, and Ormund's reaction adds to the humiliation. But the practical explanation is stronger. Ormund is heavily armored. Roderick needs to find an opening. The exposed area is one of the easiest places to attack. So rather than trying to cut through Ormund's breastplate or helmet, Roderick chooses the vulnerable spot. It's ugly, it's brutal, but it works. And this is actually a good reminder that medieval sword fighting wasn't always about elegant duels. Hollywood often portrays armored warriors swinging swords at each other's chests until someone falls. In reality, armor was designed specifically to prevent that. A good suit of armor could make a warrior extremely difficult to kill with ordinary sword strikes. That meant fighters looked for gaps. They attacked the neck, the armpits, the backs of the knees, the groin, and other vulnerable areas. Weapons could also be used to stab into openings rather than simply slashing against metal. So Roderick's attack is exaggerated for television, but the basic idea of exploiting an armor gap is not completely unreasonable. The battlefield context makes it even more believable. Roderick isn't participating in a formal duel. He's surrounded by hundreds of people. There are no rules, and his opponent is wearing heavy armor. The quickest way to hurt him is to find the weakest point, and that's exactly what he does. The moment also says something about Ormund. Despite his strength and authority, he is still human. He can be hurt, he can be frightened, and he can be caught off guard. That's important because Ormund has spent much of the season trying to project strength. He wants the Greens to believe that the Hightowers can win. But at Tumbleton, everything begins falling apart. His army is under attack. His commanders are struggling. The dragon riders are unpredictable. And now a northern warrior has reached him. Ormund's death is therefore symbolic. The Hightower military campaign has lost its central commander. And the Greens are about to enter an even more chaotic phase of the dance. But Roderick's death is just as important. The Winter Wolves lose one of their most famous leaders. Their sacrifice becomes part of the enormous price paid by the Blacks during the battle. And neither side really gets a clean victory. That is the tragedy of Tumbleton. The Blacks lose Roderick, the Greens lose Ormund, and the civilians of Tumbleton suffer because both sides have turned the town into a battlefield. Then Ulf's betrayal makes everything even worse. He turns Silverwing against the Green Army. Dragonfire spreads through the town, and suddenly people who were fighting on opposite sides are dying together. Roderick and Ormund become victims of the same destruction. So why did Roderick Dustin stab Ormund Hightower in the butt? Because Ormund was heavily armored, and Roderick found a vulnerable opening. It was a brutal battlefield tactic rather than a traditional sword-fighting move. Roderick wasn't interested in fighting an honorable duel. He wanted to eliminate the Green commander as quickly as possible, and he was willing to use whatever opening he could find. The fact that the attack happens in such an embarrassing location makes the scene unforgettable. But underneath the shock value, there is a serious point. Armor protects warriors. It doesn't make them invincible. And in the chaos of the Dance of the Dragons, even the most heavily protected commander can be brought down by a single opening. The irony is that Roderick gets his attack. He wounds Ormund, but he doesn't get to enjoy the victory. Ulf's dragonfire kills both men, and that may be the perfect ending for Tumbleton. Nobody truly wins. The commanders die, the soldiers die, the town burns, and the dragons become the ultimate weapons of destruction. Roderick Dustin's final act, therefore, isn't just a strange moment that fans will remember because of where he stabbed Ormund. It shows exactly what kind of warrior Roderick was. He was practical, he was ruthless when necessary, and he was willing to die to accomplish his objective. Ormund believed his armor could protect him. Roderick proved that no armor can protect a man from every angle, and in the end, both men pay the ultimate price. So what do you think? Was Roderick's attack a smart battlefield tactic? Or did the show deliberately make the moment humiliating for Ormund? And do you think Roderick would have killed Ormund if Ulf hadn't attacked with Silverwing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this House of the Dragon Season 3 Episode 8 explanation, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more character breakdowns, battle explanations, spoilers, and theories. The Battle of Tumbleton may be over, but the Dance of the Dragons is only getting more brutal.